All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. First, we'll verify that we have a full board tonight, so we have a quorum. So, next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I just have a couple comments I'd like to make tonight before we get started. First of all, there have been several graduation ceremonies up till now, and I want to let everyone know that some or all of the trustees have attended every graduation. And on a personal note, I have found each one that I have attended to be a very uplifting, satisfying experience. The energy that's in the room, not only from the graduates, but also from the staff, and especially from the audience, is just incredible. And I'm so proud of this institution and everything that they've done. So, and the other thing I want to say is we have a agenda item tonight regarding the upcoming budget and its possible adoption at this meeting. But I want everybody to know that every trustee has had an hour to an hour and a half private session with Sarah Garcia going over this budget. So I don't want anybody to think that we're just giving it a rudimentary blessing this evening, because everybody has spent a lot of time reviewing this and getting personal information from Mrs. Garcia, okay? So next on the agenda is celebrating success. Dr. Swain and Blake Sanchez?
So Blake is going to introduce, we have the graduation video that was done by our own comms marketing team, and I have not seen it yet, but I think it's going to be good.
Okay. So we'll have the video, and then Blake has some comments.
Our goal today is to have these two lines be perfectly even with the exact same number of students at each line.
Today, we're celebrating the accomplishments of a total of 971 students. I'm told that this is the largest graduating class ever.
All right. Good evening, everyone. You've all met me. I am Blake Sanchez, and I'm the incoming ASNIC Vice President, apologies, I served as the previous ASNIC vice president. As that video shows, commencement was just a wonderful experience. Like Chair Corkle said, the energy was just incredible. It was just amazing to see all the joyful faces of all of those students, among which was my own sister, which was a wonderful experience to see her graduate along with everyone else there. Lots of hard work went into that moment. For me, as the incoming president, it was just a good reminder of the role that I'm going to be playing as I step in helping all of those students, my students, to be able to reach their own commencement day, and just what it is that we're supposed to be doing as ASNIC, being that bridge between the students, staff, and faculty, and helping to support those students. It was also very impressive to see all of the work that goes into planning an event like that. I had previously no conception of all of the work and effort that goes into events like this from the event staff, and that was just truly overwhelming. And it was just a pleasure to be a part of, and I'm excited to be there with all of you again, hopefully next year. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Can I just say,
Sure.
You did a great job in your part in the graduation, but we look forward to working with you this year, seeing all the great things that you'll be doing, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
uh-huh.
And Blake didn't mention it, but was it your older sister or your younger sister that
It
graduated?
was, in fact, my younger sister.
I just wanted to point that out.
I think the video aptly expressed the excitement that was in the room. Very nice.
I think Ellie is the blame on the blame line for the video. She did a great job with putting that together.
She got over me ruining that one shot. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is public comment, but it appears that nobody signed up today. So we will move on to the next agenda item, which is confer tenure.
So Lloyd will come up to the microphone, and but we have one person that Tricia Robinson, who is we're going to I'm going to nominate her for tenure. And Tricia could not be here tonight. It is her 20th wedding anniversary. Typically, we approve tenure in the April meeting, and we were not able to fit that in, schedule it for May. Her husband had a surprise trip, so she is absolutely devastated that she can't be here to be part of her own ceremony, but nonetheless, she has gone through the whole process. We have the packet for her review. She did a great job on her tenure review, so I would ask for a motion, a second, if you would have that approved.
Would anybody care to make that motion?
Chair Corkle,
Yes.
I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
And I will ask if she can join us. Usually we do a photo op with the trustees and the new tenure candidates, and I'll see if she can come in June and get a picture with the trustees.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay, we have no ASNIC report tonight because the president isn't here. And faculty assembly.
We have the alternate. John Gardenia is going to present for Kathleen Miller-Green, who is, I believe, in London.
Yes, thank you. Chair Corkill, Board, President Swain, thank you. At Faculty Assembly this last week, we had our final regular meeting of the semester. We started that meeting with kind of a frank conversation of some of the laws coming forward, specifically Senate Bill 1198. We then went forward and had our regular reports from our regular committees, and we elected new officers in the last meeting. And in that election, I was elected as the new president, so I'll be moving up as not president, chair. So I'm moving up from vice chair to chair. And then we also elected in that Christy Mendoza as vice chair, Anika Jacobson as secretary, and Eric Sartell as treasurer. We also, this is every other year is it every other year that we put Senate representatives? Every year? Okay. Well, we nominated 4 representatives to serve on Senate and got all those seats filled. And and that kind of concluded our meeting. It was relatively easy. So I look forward to working with you guys and stand for any questions.
Any questions? Well, thank you and congratulations. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay. Staff assembly, please.
Good evening, Chair Corkle, trustees, President Swain, and community members. Staff Assembly met on May 8th. Our monthly highlight was on the Writing Center, and we invited Jo Leon to speak and provide an overview. She noted the various groups that they serve and that they have faculty consults from a variety of departments, including communication, psychology, and child development, and they also do a number of collaborative events on campus, such as author readings and writing workshops. Our staff assembly also voted for the upcoming year's executive officers. I'm happy to introduce Dan Adams as our chair of staff assembly for the 2025 to 2026 year, and I will continue serving in the vice chair capacity. We have an excellent team for this year, and we are excited to see what comes next for staff assembly. That concludes my report. Does the board have any questions?
No, but thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Okay. Senate, please.
Good evening, Chair Corkle, trustees, President Swain, colleagues, and community members. Senate met last on May 8th for our final meeting of the academic year. During that meeting, we conducted the second reading and passed the Faculty Evaluation Policy and Procedure 3.02.21. We also welcome new staff and faculty senators for next year and voted in our executive officers for the 2025-2026 session. I would like to introduce Matt Peterson, who will be the new chair, and he is an assistant professor of physics and was the vice chair this year. Additional officer positions filled include Melissa Jessen as vice chair, Casey Hallett as corresponding secretary, Travis Hagner as parliamentarian, and we do have an opening for our recording secretary, which we will hope to fill at the August meeting. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. President's report.
All right. Well, as under the category of accreditation, we just concluded our quarterly board training, which is something that we promised the NWCC we would do, and I think it is very beneficial. It's a much different training session than we've had previously, but I think it was very productive. And Mr. Burke will present a report following mine. And as you've seen, we just completed a series of commencements and graduations and pinnings. I'm happy to announce that we had 971 completers. I say that because there are a variety of things that they've completed, some graduations and some certificates. And that's NIC's largest ever graduating class in the 91-year history. So something to be pretty proud of considering where we've been over the past couple of years. Included in these numbers are 2 pinning ceremonies, a post-graduation, the GED graduation, and our first ever dual credit graduation ceremony. And we had 211 students that completed their dual credit graduation this year, which is pretty phenomenal. The Firefighter Academy graduates tomorrow, so one more opportunity. And with smoke already rising on the back side of Canfield Mountain yesterday, we are happy to have them joining our first responder teams. I don't know if you guys saw the fire yesterday, but I was pretty surprised that we already had a small forest fire. In terms of enrollment management, I think Kristen is going to pop up the dashboards for us. So I'm going to read off numbers that are going to vary a little bit from what you're going to see on the screen because I pulled these yesterday and they change every day. But summer enrollment's up about 9.5% over last summer, and last summer was about a 10%, if I recall correctly, about a 10% over the previous year. So this is these are significant numbers to go that much year over year. Part of the success is a couple months ago we changed our start date for summer session to accommodate the local high schools, so that in the past we started summer school a week before the local high schools graduated. So the students that wanted to take dual credit or were maybe wanted to get a jump start on the fall were not able to participate because they were already a week late. And so I think it's made a big difference in our dual credit, which is up 25% over last summer. We're also seeing a 5% increase in career and technical education and academic transfer programs combined. And that's a whopping 14.5% increase in full-time enrollment. So normally we see a lot of part-time enrollments over the summer, but seeing full-time enrollments over the summer is a pretty dramatic change, and 14.5% full-time is a pretty sizable number. Now if we switch to fall, so fall is really our, probably the more important semester here. We got about 90 days to go before the fall start date. Overall enrollment is only up 1.3%. Okay, we got a lot of time left, but that's 1.3% up over 15.2% last year. So keep that in mind. And it's the first time in over a decade that I could find where we had 2 consecutive fall growth patterns. So that's pretty important. The number of non-dual credits, if she turns off dual credits there, number of non-dual credits, which is important because dual credit really doesn't kick in until much later. If you take off dual credit, we're actually up almost 13%. And I, as a vote of community confidence in NIC, the number of new full-time students, so if we turn everything back on the left-hand side and just set it to new and full-time, second column over there at the top for new, and you see that we're only up 59.6%. I mean, quite frankly, that it's sort of impressive number. 60% increase in full-time students over last year at this point. Our goal is to be up 4% total enrollment, non-dual by fall, and I hope we make it. We're doing everything we can to get there, but to be up 60%, I think it's a tribute to the staff and faculty that are putting in all the work, but it is also, I think, really a vote of confidence in the community's trust in NIC. So pretty happy with that. One of the other things that I think is really impressive, and I don't know if, I can't see with my glasses, I can't see without, so I'm sorry, but if you look at the continuing students, this is the first time we've ever seen the fall-to-fall continuing students in a positive manner in over a decade. It's only 1%, but when it's typically been down 3 to 5%, being up 1% is a huge change of attitude. And and keep in mind that 1% is based off the 15% increase that we had last year. So we're doing better at retaining students, which is one of our big goals this year. Is we're working really well on recruiting students. Retaining them until completion is really an integrity issue for the institution, and so we're working really hard to get that number up. And we've got a group that's really focused on that, and I think we're already seeing some results. 1%, not a huge number, but we've put so much effort into recruiting them, increasing the retention is really important. Okay, so we can shut off. If anybody has any questions about the dashboards, now's the time to ask, because she's going to shut them down and then it's over. Okay, no questions. All right. In terms of community stakeholder engagement, we presented NIC Foundation scholarships to the top 15 award winners at the Youth Water Summit, which happened last week. There was an article in the paper about that, and we're looking forward to seeing those outstanding students. These are students that have done real research in the community on water-related issues in high school, and so we're looking forward to seeing those students in our classrooms in the fall of 25 and 26, because some are sophomore, some are juniors, and some are seniors. So looking forward to seeing those students. We had the Cardinal Classic Golf fundraiser that took place on Friday, May 9th at the Links Golf Course in, I guess, Rathdrum. And there was a strong showing in community support. I think 25 teams participated, and we had hole sponsors, meal sponsors, hole-in-one sponsors. It was a really nice event, and I don't know if Sean's going to present the results of that fundraising activity that goes to support our athletes. We had the final performance of our first joint performance production with the Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater. We did Clue the musical this year. They had two, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday sessions, and it was a resounding success. Something I was really surprised with, I got an email from the Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater director asking where does he want the check sent, because I wasn't expecting revenue, but apparently we made $4,000 on that, and so there was not just a demand, but I heard resounding accolades for the performances. So really nice success to have with our Coeur d'Alene Summer Theater partners. In terms of support for student athletes, among the 971 graduates this year, 30 of them were athletes, and I was very impressed. They're probably stealing Sean's thunder here, but their overall GPA of our 152 athletes was 3.2, and so the nice thing about average is that's like half of them were above that and half of them are below that or close to it, and so but still having a 3.2 GPA average from our athletes was great, and look forward to further information from Sean later. In terms of strategic planning, we have established the 5 big goals, and now we are working our way through those goals to establish and refine the objectives and how we're going to measure those, so the metrics for those. We've gone through the first 3. We've got that done. The last 2 really are, Sarah Garcia is the major proponent for them, and she's been kind of busy with the budget, so we've given her grace, and we will finish those up in the next couple weeks. And then starting in August, we'll bring those back to the board, go through each of the major goals and objectives and the metrics at 5, a sequence of 5 board meetings starting in August. So you'll have a real clean idea of where we are with the strategic plan. And then in terms of general updates, many of you, if you drove in on Hubbard Avenue, would have maybe noticed the Cardinal Central banner out back behind the DeArmond building. There's also one in front of the building, and Cardinal Central is now fully operational and located in the DeArmond building. They were in Lee Kildow, but Lee Kildow is now offline, and so all the faculty and staff that were based out of Lee Kildow are now either in the Headland building, the DeArmond building, or the library, and probably some places that I haven't found yet. And I've been told by the Cardinal Central staff that despite the turmoil in just having to move from one location to another, they're very happy with how things are now, because parking is just so much easier. So it's very easy to identify right off the traffic circle, and then you have giant parking lot on the north side of the building for visitors to park at. We have a couple of really nice articles. The one in the Coeur d'Alene Press on the 30 North Idaho College students, the athletes that graduated, and another on the North Idaho College's largest graduating class. We made the front page at the crease. Also, coming up, we have the North Idaho Women and Their Money Conference on June 9th. There's still places, it's a free conference, and there's still, you can still sign up, there's still some room. It runs from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. here on our main campus. And in my role as a former military officer, I don't think we can appreciate how important it is to have our spouses understand how to deal with money. In the military, we would deploy all over the world, sometimes on a moment's notice, and if our spouses didn't understand how to manage the money, it became a big problem really quickly. And so for a lot of the folks, and we see that in when Louisa Rogers comes in and presents with the Center for New Directions, a lot of the ladies that she's bringing in and has as clients were abruptly made the breadwinners of their families, and sometimes through death in the family or departures of spouses. They're in charge of their money now, and some of them really didn't have a chance to figure out how to make that work. And so having a conference, it's really an educational opportunity, and I think it's critically important for our community to make sure that women know how to manage money and are confident in that. Lots of great experts, and again, the registration, I have it here, QR code, don't try it from your desk, but I have it up here if you need it. Get registered and attend that. It's going to be a great conference. The North Idaho College Foundation really big raffle tickets are still on sale. They're $150 each, and yes, the grand prize is a house, and the second prize is a brand new car. So that's the largest fundraiser for the foundation, and all that money, all the proceeds from that go directly to the benefit NIC students and staff and faculty. The foundation gives about $1.5 million every year in form of scholarships to our students, and then about $55,000 a year to great ideas from our faculty and staff. So it's a great program. Sign up. I got it up here if you need it. And finally, we hope to have the June board meeting at the Parker Center in Rathdrum. So that gives the board an opportunity to meet there about 90 minutes prior to the meeting start, and then we'll hold the regular meeting there because it's about a half-hour drive to get back to campus. So we'll start there with a tour and make sure that all the board members know that what's going on out at Parker. So Chair Corkle, that concludes my report, subject to any questions.
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Oh, wait,
Thorough as a-
Chair
whoop.
Corkle.
Yes.
Dr. Swain, I loved your report where you talked about the dual enrollment graduates being up over 200. So my daughter was a dual enrollment graduate in 2015. She was one of 11.
Yeah, we've grown since then.
Thank you.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Okay, board training update. Mr. Burke.
Good evening, board members and guests. Dr. D. Thomas and I are again honored to be here with you all today for the session that we had. And Chair Corkle, during the session, said this really isn't training, and he's correct. So we rebranded it Facilitated Strategic Conversations. And really, that really does aptly describe what we had today. It was a conversation. The board was fully engaged. And it's impressive that all 5 board members were there for the entire time, and also, of course, your president, and Steve Kurtz, your accreditation liaison. And accreditation was one of the major topics because we addressed the 6 recommendations that deal with board governance. And of course, you have a plan for each of these. This plan's not new, it's been developed previously, but we went over the progress of each of those 6 recommendations and the continuous board engagement in making sure that each one of them is addressed. And it is impressive what the work that you have done as a board. You are taking the recommendations, you're taking the strategic action plan and make it a reality. The example that Chair Corcoran gave today of just the budget and the process has worked exactly how it should be. You were introduced to it early, you went through budget assumptions, you met with the Vice President of Finance of Business Affairs to go over it, you had got your questions answered. There was a lot of behind-the-scenes work that was done in preparation, and you as a board were engaged in each step of that way. That same model, I know, is being used on a continual basis. The board meetings are the best example of the progress this board is making, but also the behind-the-scenes work, the making sure that prior to each board meeting, each board member has committed to have time to have a conference, an individual conference by phone with the president to go over any concerns, any questions they have going through the board agenda. These are all best practices of boardsmanship, and you all have embraced them. These are not only good for the accreditation purpose, they're good for the benefit of North Idaho College. So I think you should be very proud of that. Also, just the board's engagement in advocating for the college. It is so impressive that 4 board members took the time away from work, away from their duties, to go to Boise and to advocate with your president on behalf of the college. This shows this board is fully engaged in doing the work of a good board. I want to again compliment the groups which rescinded your votes of no confidence. You don't know how important that is, because one of the recommendations dealt with the boards dealing with those issues. And by y'all doing that, you not only rescinded the votes of no confidence, you also stated that the underpinning issues which they were based on, the board is addressing. And that's quite powerful as far as the response that we are going to give to the accreditation authority. Also, Dr. D. Thomas and I have been around a long time, community colleges. We have never known of a college which had its organizations which give a vote of no confidence rescind them. So it's really maybe history-making here at NIC in a very positive way, and your support of the board is very, very meaningful, so I do want to point that out. Also, I think it's a tribute to your president and board working together. One of the concepts of community college governance is that the president and the board are a team to advance the college and to move the college forward, and that's what you're doing. So, the final point I want to conclude with is, and I know people like to hear what I say, I'm going to conclude. It's like a Baptist minister, does he really mean it? And that's the point of the 971 students who graduated, your largest graduating class. Because all those governance matters, all those governance recommendations, all the items we talk about really boil down to student success. And one of the things that I am so impressed with this board is, and I know Dr. D. Thomas shares this, is your commitment to student success, because that's what this college is about. So thank you for allowing me to present this report, and be glad to answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Anybody? Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is instruction, transfer, and general education.
So Dr. Simpkins is the Dean of Transfer Programs, and so I've asked her to come up and let us know, give us an update on transfer programs, where we are, and how things are progressing. So,
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Corkle, Board, President Swain, colleagues and community. Thank you for being here tonight, especially on such a beautiful night. It's time to go swimming rather than be indoors, so I appreciate your attendance. I'm excited to share with you information about our transfer and general education programs and the good works that are happening there. So just a few things. The organizational chart, you'll see me there in the middle of it, just one of 5 deans we have here at the college. Moving forward, these are my direct reports. So social behavioral science, English humanities, PE, natural sciences, fine arts, math, computer science, engineering. I've also recently taken on e-learning in the testing center, the director of Cardinal Learning, and the library. So that's who is connected to me. But tonight we'll focus mainly on the divisions and the programs. So we have over 35 programs that are designed to transfer. I think we sell them short if we view them as only transfer programs. Many students will take these programs and enter directly into the workforce. So for example, business, child development, even English students can get their 2-year associate's degree and find meaningful employment. But you'll also see programs on the list where the students are transferring on, such as education, engineering, computer science. So all of these programs report to me. The only one that doesn't is nursing, and that's part of our health professions programs. So these are our top programs at this time, meaning they have the most enrolled students in them. And so kind of a mixture across the board from our sciences to our social sciences and business, of course. If you've wondered where our students go, this shows you a good example. The majority go on to University of Idaho. So in the year 2023 to 24, we had 201, Lewis Clark 143, Boise State 81, and then the numbers kind of significantly drop off. So you can see most of our students stay here in the state and transfer within Idaho. If we look at enrollments in our academic transfer, 47% of students this spring were enrolled in academic transfer programs. This can be kind of confusing though, because if you look at dual enrollment, the majority of students that take dual enrollment are also academic transfer students. So 87% of students in our dual enrollment program are pursuing general education and academic transfer degrees. So really the vast majority here at NIC are enrolled in these programs. The other thing to note is we have the wonderful opportunity to serve our career technical students because many of them, all of them, if they're earning their associate's degree, have to take general education courses. So when we look at just spring again, all of the students enrolled in general ed, academic transfer, it's over 90, it's at 90%. So a great opportunity to make a big impact on all students here on campus. So thinking about general education, these are our areas of general ed here at NIC. We call them GEM. It's a play on the GEM state, and it's something that comes from the state. So written communication, oral communication, math, science, humanities, social behavioral science. And then we have an area where as an institution, we decide what students can take. And for us, that's wellness courses, first-year experience courses, and what we call integrative inquiry. So those are our general education offerings. A lot of times students will ask, why do I have to take these courses? Because they feel like you're just checking the box. And the message we're really trying to help our students understand in the community is that this is where the students learn those durable and transferable skills. This is where they're learning to communicate, to think critically, to work in teams, to be leaders, and all of these good things you see here on the board. And no matter what job you have, these skills are what employers are asking for. So what do our students say about us? These are a few quotes from recent graduates here at NIC. This one's a common one, talking about how our courses are more rigorous than the same courses at the University of Idaho, which I think should be something we should be proud of. I hope they're equally as rigorous, not that we're trying to make it difficult on students, but I think it's great to know that our courses have good rigor. And you'll notice most of the quotes talk about life changes and launch pads into their future. One such student I wanted to highlight just quickly is Rachel Jordan, and she is, as of June, putting out this book, If the Ocean Has a Soul, combining faith and her love for marine biology, so it's kind of a fun one. But she's a student that started here at NIC, transferred on to a college over in Seattle, got her master's in Australia, and is a marine biologist. So our students truly do go all over the world doing amazing things. And with that, this is one other fun one. This was put together by Ellie and Gary in marketing and really showcases what our students can do. I'm gonna switch over to it real quickly.
back to mute.
Not liking that.
Struggles that people face in their everyday life. Hi, my name is Justine Lackner. I am from Frenchtown, Montana, and I graduated North Idaho College in the spring of 2021 from the business program. So after I graduated from NIC, I transferred to the University of Idaho. Then I graduated with business management. I decided to found my own nonprofit called Sustainable Classrooms, where we combat plastic pollution and the lack of access to education in rural Togo, West Africa. I saw the need for educational facilities and the plastic pollution that we see all across the world and decided to make plastic bricks out of this recycled plastic that we were finding in these communities to make these classrooms. NIC was more than just an educational stepping stone for me. It gave me that chance to get involved outside of the classroom, such as student government, the ambassador program, and being an RA. I've stayed connected with more than just the faculty that taught me classes here at NIC. And now they have really been able to help me pursue my dream of wanting to change lives across the world. I think what keeps me motivated every day is knowing that we're making an impact across the world, all the way in Togo, West Africa, but we're also staying true to our roots here where we're incorporated in Idaho.
Gary and Ellie do a really great job for us in putting together promotional materials, and so I want to make sure they get good credit for that. So lastly, just thinking about kind of what's next in our transfer and general education programs, we are continuing to expand our partnerships with University of Idaho. You're probably familiar with their computer science program here on campus. If you haven't toured it, that'd be a really fun tour to do. But you can earn your associate's degree all the way through your doctorate right here in the Headland building. But we're also working on expanding partnerships. One of the recent ones we've worked on this year is geological mining. And then that will, in the next year or so, advance into mining engineering. And that's to support our local mining industry who needs those engineers and geologists. We are continuing to expand our first-year experience. One of the things that's working for retention is students taking a first-year experience course. And we're seeing that students that take that course have at least a 5% better retention rate, if not more. And that's another thing. Hopefully we get a chance to talk more about retention in the future and can dive a little deeper into that. We are also working to launch a new course. This one will start in spring. It's with innovation, and it's community-based problem solving and helping our students really tackle a community problem, and we'll host that out of the innovation center that's being created in the Headland building. We're continuing to pursue micro-credentials and certificates. We know a lot of students don't want the full package of a degree. Some of them just want to come in and get something quick. So one example of that is our English program is putting together a professional writing certificate. So students or employees that just want to brush up on their writing can come in, take a couple quick classes, get a certificate, and exit into the workforce. We're continuing creating new partnerships. President Swain highlighted one of those with our theater program and summer theater. Another one that we're pretty excited about is our environmental science program and really weaving in indigenous knowledge into that, working with the Coeur d'Alene tribe. And that's a new adventure for us as we think about the best way to enhance tribal relations and put together a program that really interests the tribe. And then last one is just continuing to enhance our summer offerings. As you saw, we have really strong enrollments this summer, and we are often attracting back university students that just want to pick up a course here in the summer, and our non-traditional populations as well. So continuing to put new offerings out there and grow our enrollments in that way. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Very impressive. Yes, Trustee Zimmerman.
I have a question about first-year experience. I don't feel like I know as much about it as I'd like to. Could you elaborate on who's a candidate for that? Is it a course? Is it a series of courses? And how do you target or invite someone to be a part of the program?
Yeah, so it's a series of courses, and we just recently incorporated them into general education. So all students are welcome to take them. Our target is really students that have taken very little college, so like less than 15 credits has really been our focus over the last year or so. Knowing that when they come in, they need a little bit extra support, just knowing where resources are, what does it mean to be in a college community, a whole lot kind of shaped around that. So there's a first semester course that's paired with a general education course, and the same faculty member teaches both classes, and they have the same students in both classes, so it's a bit of a cohort that starts to build for the students. And then in the second semester, they take an additional general education course and an additional FYE credit. So it's kind of trying to pull them through that whole first year. And the second one involves design thinking type stuff as well.
Are the courses for credit?
They are,
Okay.
yes, yeah. Yep, the first one's 2 credits, and then the second one's 1 credit. We started FYE maybe 4, 5 years ago. About 4 or 5 years ago. So it's a newer adventure for us, but one that we're finding to be really successful. And we're just now branching out. We'll be starting this fall an engineering cohort. So it'll be an engineering class tied to a first-year experience class. And then we're looking to expand into business and a first-year experience. So kind of moving beyond just gen ed and trying to capture those program-specific students as well.
Well, I think that's great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I was just going to ask a little bit about the delivery method of the classes. Are they all on campus or?
The first-year experience ones?
No,
Or
just in general, your general ed classes.
Yeah, so we do, I would say, almost every variety and flavor. So we do face-to-face, and we try to definitely offer those. We know there's students that want that, but we also offer online. And one of our most popular methods is really the hybrid. I think students enjoy some online work, but also some face-to-face opportunities. So we try to kind of cover everything. For online, we have some that are just asynchronous, so you're logging into Canvas and you could watch a lecture video, and others you're logging in to a live lecture. So you're all going to sign in at 10 a.m. and you're going to join a Zoom meeting and engage with your classmates online that way. So a lot of varieties and flavors, and we try to offer as many as we can that we can fill reasonably, just to give students all the variety and options.
Great. So we'll probably find this out next month since we're touring at the Parker Center, but do you provide the general ed classes out there?
We provide a few. So we do communication, math, and English, kind of our core gen ed classes out to Parker. It's definitely a site we've wanted to continue expanding, but those are the main courses that Parker students need to take. So beyond that, we'd have to really kind of market and push into the community. But we do the core basic 3-1 out there.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much. It was a wonderful report.
Thanks.
Okay, athletics, spring.
So we have our athletic director, Sean Noel.
Good evening, Chair Chair Corkle, trustees, President Swain, Cardinal fans. Hope everybody's doing well. There you go. So I'll give you an update on spring and then some other kind of miscellaneous stuff. So start with the spring report with our teams. Men's golf qualified for the NJCAA National Championship. They finished in 9th place. We had one individual, Eli McNelly. He finished tied for 6th as an individual. They played 4 rounds. He shot a 277 for a +1, which is really impressive at a national tournament. He was a first-team NJCAA All-American. In terms of men's golf, moving on, 6 men's golfers will be continuing their education and playing career, and then 1 will be continuing his education. Won't be playing golf. So So 7 of them moving on, 6 of them playing golf. For the women's side, they also qualified for the NJCAA National Championship. They finished in 16th place. Ryan Soledad finished a +6 in the final round and shot a 78 that day. We have 2 women's golfers who will be continuing their education and playing career. 5 will be continuing their education, 3 of which will return to North Idaho College. For softball, for the Region 18 District Championship, they finished in 3rd place. Sophomore Faith Nichols was named to the all-tournament team. Christine Schmidt and Corrine Duran was named to the all-SWAC 2nd team for softball. In terms of LOIs for 25 and 26 next year, LOIs again are letters of intent. So next year, with not having men's and women's golf, it takes us down to 136 total letters of intent that could be signed with all of our teams. Men's and women's soccer have 24 each that they could sign as a maximum. Women's volleyball is 14. Men's and women's basketball get 15 apiece. Men's wrestling gets 20, and softball gets 24. That's how we get to the 136. So that's represented by red, the red line. The green line is what is signed as of today. So as you can see, we're pretty close to the finish line for most of our teams. The yellow on a couple are LOIs that are out for signature. What that means is they've been through our initial process of signing them. Now we're just waiting for the student athlete or the student athlete and their parent to sign, depending on their age, and return those. So yeah, we're at the finish line. Budgetary-wise, the green part, the coaches have spent 71% of their dollars allocated for tuition fees, room, board, books. A little bit different this year. Instead of having full scholarships for each of those LOIs, there's a chunk of money that's given to each coach, and they can divvy that money out as they see fit. But again, it's a budgetary number, so not every student athlete is getting tuition fees, room, board, books. It'll be allocated based on a budgetary for each sport. Once those signed LOIs come back, they'll be about at 86%. And each team will probably have about 3 to 4 left to sign per sport. From a tuition rate standpoint, where are our student athletes coming from? So if you see on the diagram, 34% of those are non-residents. Of those that are non-residents, non-resident, I don't want to say is out of state. WUI is sort of I'll call it the West Coast kind of. That's considered a different rate. But anybody, I'll say, kind of, I don't know, west of Colorado or east of Colorado, sort of those states and beyond are considered out of state. But out of those out of state students, of 29 are international students. We'll be in that 30 range for international students this year. That'll be about a 40% decrease from last year for international students. 43% are WUI states, 18% are Washington residents, and then 3 and 2 come from non-district and resident tuition rates. And that was as of yesterday. So, some additional services. I've been working with Lloyd, Sherry, Kat and Aaron, trying to figure out some things for our ESL and our international students. So we've talked about trying to do sort of ESL placement test to try to see where some of our student athletes place. I think that'll help us understand what they need and what services we can provide or can't provide. We're going to do a summer refresher for 2 weeks. Because most of our international students, it happens to be they come from our fall sports, and our fall sports are back early. So that'll be really helpful, I think, that 2-week refresher. And again, working with Sherry and Kat and that side to make that happen. And then from all of that, see what we need for ESL classes and what the needs are for each of those individual students. The North Idaho College Booster Club. The meetings are the second Thursday of each month. Like Dr. Swain said, May 9th, we had the Cardinal Classic golf tournament. Still waiting on a $300 check, waiting on taxes to be taken out, and waiting on a check from Dixon Golf. It was one of the fun holes, and they sent us a check. But we'll be between probably 19 and 20,000 in that neighborhood is what we'll have raised from that. So that's good. I'm excited about that. And like Dr. Swain said, we had a lot of community support, involvement, and that's always welcome. So we appreciate everyone that was there, that golfed, that had a whole sponsorship, was a dinner sponsor, a lot of different sponsors. So we appreciate that. Ways to get involved, you can be an individual member. That's usually tied to a season ticket. So if you're interested in that and a season ticket, you become a Booster Club member. And then you can also do it from a corporate side. There's a booklet in front of you, so you can advertise in booklets or signs in the gym, and some different other ways that you could get involved if interested. And then mark your calendars, Thursday, September 4th, the Student Athlete Booster Cruise. Please come, invite a friend or 2 or 5 or 20. And we're going to have a little meet and greet. We'll change it this year, so we'll have the teams kind of come down, do a meet and greet with each team, and try to get more connected with the local businesses and community. So if you can write that down, that'd be great. We'll see you there. Like Dr. Swain kind of talked about, we really had a great spring. Men's soccer was our highest GPA with a 3.44, which I don't want to say out loud, but I will. It's pretty shocking. Usually you don't see men's soccer on the top half of most GPAs, so I said it. But yeah, I mean, you can see we have most of our teams are above a 3.0 and, getting better. But I really want to thank, we hired a young lady named Sam, and I think that's really done wonders with communication with our student athletes and with the faculty. And I do want to thank Sherry and the faculty. Again, they've bent over backwards with a lot of different type classes and hybrids and a lot of different models. I mean, there's days our student athletes are here 2 days a week for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So when you think about that, whether you agree or disagree with that, when you see the GPA and think about that, that's pretty impressive, I think. So we're excited with that 3.2 GPA, and we'll keep working forward. I had Sam pull numbers, so this is a kind of a year snapshot. Obviously, it doesn't include anything over the summer, but a 3.18 overall. So we went from a 3.17 in the fall to a 3.20 in the spring, so it gives us a 3.18 overall. And you can see, each team, what that looks like. So again, I think it was a great year for us, and hopefully we'll keep building that building as we move forward. Just some important dates. Thursday, July 31st, 64 days away, but who's counting, right? Fall student athletes check into the residence halls. The next day, the first official day of fall practices. First official game date is the 21st. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Thursday, September 4th, is the Student Athlete Booster Cruise. And then, as always, go to nicathletics.com, and you can keep up to date on schedules and stories and different things. And with that, is there any questions?
I just want to make a comment. It's very gratifying to see those high GPAs among the students. It's very important. Very nice to see. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we need to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for the April 23rd meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes on the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. There is no action resulting from a previous executive session. Discussion, first reading, possible action on our budget. Floor is yours.
Okay. I had to find the presentation on the screen. It was hard to find. Good evening, Chair Corkill, Trustees, President Swain, colleagues, and guests, tonight I am here to present the administration's proposal for the fiscal year 2026 budget. In March, at March's regular board meeting, we reviewed the planning assumptions for fiscal year 26 budget process. As a reminder, at the time, we said no tuition increase. The last tuition increase that we did was $1.50 per credit in FY19. We have revised that assumption and are requesting $5.50 per credit increase for in-district students and a $6 per credit increase for all other students. The other assumptions were no base property tax increase, only new property. Enrollment anticipated at FY25 actual levels plus an additional 4% increase for non-dual credit production. A 5% increase in base compensation for full-time employees, which per policy is a step, which equates to approximately 2%, as well as an increase to the base schedule of 3%. The medical benefit package premium increase is 20%, and then a reduction in the athletic program costs of $1.3 million. So with the assumptions established, we got to work calculating, or in some cases having to estimate, the budgetary impact of these assumptions on our revenue and expenses, personnel costs, and general operating. From that, we calculated the net impact of this year's changes to the full budget and worked to identify solutions to arrive at a balanced budget. I'm going to switch it up a little bit from the way I've done it in the past and talk about the total institution first. The total college budget is comprised of 4 main groupings of activity. The first is the general fund, which is our main operating fund, and that is $59 million of our total budget. The other areas that we have are the fee fund, which includes ASNICS, student health, student activities, athletics, and commencement. The revenue for the fee-based activities is driven by student enrollment and is restricted for the purpose for which we collect it. The service units include workforce training, the Children's Center, and our Dormitory Housing Commission. These are units that charge a fee for a service and provide a service in exchange. Some of these, such as the DHC, which oversees Residence Hall, Student Union, and the Student Wellness and Recreation Center, are restricted, but the others, like workforce training, are not. Our grants are either federal or state grants, our biggest federal grants being Area Agency on Aging and Head Start, and state grants, such as our workforce development grants and our state CTE grants that we have. The total budget for the entire institution is over $78 million. But what we focus on during the budget process is the general fund. The general fund is used for the day-to-day operations of the college and fund the instruction, student services, facilities, and administration of the institution. This slide is a summary of the changes in our revenues for the proposed 26 budget. This year, we're proposing an increase to tuition revenue in total of $1.2 million, and that comes from a combination of enrollment increases and the tuition increase. So we have increased tuition due to enrollment. We had, as we talked about earlier in the year, about $650,000 more tuition revenue this year than we planned. So we're adding that into our base. And then the additional 4% increase in enrollment, which is the first time in over 10 years that we have actually budgeted for an increase in enrollment. And that brings about $300,000 in, $260,000 in. So just the change in the number of students we're seeing is going to bring in another $900,000. We've talked a lot about what is the trigger that we have that can help us get out of the situation of relying on fund balance, and it's enrollment. And we're seeing the fruits of the labors in these numbers. The next line is a tuition rate increase of 3.9%. I'll show some additional information about that in a moment. The state general fund appropriation is going to bring in $730,000. We were very fortunate this year that JFAC and the legislature decided to hold us harmless for the enrollment workload adjustment. It would have been a negative number to our allocation for the year, so we're very fortunate and thankful for that. But the bulk of that is for the 5% change in employee compensation. The state CTE appropriation includes the same 5% increase for employee compensation, as well as a $1.6 million increase in funding for capacity enhancement. So each of the schools in the state higher education facilities that provide career technical education each got the same $1.6 million. We haven't decided exactly where that's going to go yet. We also haven't gotten a lot of direction from the state about exactly how to use that, but we have a lot of good ideas. We are asking for the new property on the rolls, which is about $200,000, not asking for any base property tax increase. There's an increase in interest income and other miscellaneous income that we were, due to our cash balances and some of the trends that we have in those accounts, we've been able to bump up the the revenue expectation for those. The total of all those above is $4.5 million of new revenue, which is great. But that last line is a standard practice. So last year we had to budget fund balance in order to balance our budget. Standard practice is to pull that back out. You don't want to leave it in there because it just becomes part of your base. So you need to pull it back out and start fresh. So when we add that, take that out, we end up with $1.9 million of new revenue for this upcoming year.
Sarah,
Sorry.
would you say that again?
So if you remember last year, we had a budget deficit. Once we did all the revenue and expenses, we were at a deficit. And in order to cover the deficit, we weren't unable to identify additional expenses. You either have to increase revenue or reduce expenses if you want to balance your budget. We couldn't reduce expenses, so we chose to use fund balance to support our operations. And so when you do that, you don't want to leave that in your budget for the next year because it kind of disappears and then you just kind of lose track of it. So the best practice is always to assume that you don't need that as you work your way through the process.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The revenue from our general fund comes from three main sources: tuition, property taxes, and state funding. This slide just shows the percentage of total revenue coming from each of those categories. The tuition is at the bottom in blue. Property taxes are in the next one up in yellow. State CTE funding is green, and the state general fund is in orange. And we just keep an eye on this because we don't want any one of these areas to get significantly larger or significantly smaller than the others. We want to keep an eye on them and make sure we're keeping a balanced revenue inflow. The next two slides provide some additional information about the tuition. This first slide shows the history of our per credit tuition rates for in-district students. You can see that where the line flattens out, that's when we hit our statutory max for tuition rate, the tuition that we could charge. And that was, the legislature passed a law this year that increased that amount, so that's why we're able to increase tuition this fiscal year. This next slide shows the cost of attending NIC for one semester as compared to other Idaho and regional institutions. We, along with CSI, have the lowest proposed tuition rate for FY26. Some of these, the other community colleges, College of Eastern Idaho increased their tuition by $10 a credit, $5 for tuition, $5 for fees, and the College of Western Idaho did $5 for tuition and $7 for fees. So these, I go to websites and try to pull up the most recent information I can find. So some of these haven't been finalized, but these are the proposals. So we're the best deal in town. Moving on to the expense side of the budget, this budget includes $6.6 million in new expenses or increased expenses. Of those, there's the 5% change in employee compensation and the benefits related to that, which is the $1.2 million and the $183,000 below it. We also have $800,000 for a medical premium rate increase. We have held our medical insurance premiums have been held very, very low, if no increases for the last 3 years. We put pressure on our provider to help us out with that when we were struggling with the accreditation issues on the college, and we didn't want to create any additional stress for our employees. And someday you have to pay the price, and we're paying the price this year. So that's the employer's share of the increase in medical premiums. Contracts and leases as required by the vendors, so just escalation clauses that we have in many of our long-term contracts. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have to show the expense side of the CTE revenue because we have to spend that money specifically for that purpose. And then lastly, and very nicely, we are going to be able to reinstate the capital investment reserve contribution. So last year, as I said before, when we had a $5.2 million deficit, we reallocated the capital investment reserve contribution to operations for the year, as well as creating fund balance transfer for that year. So we are reinstating the capital investment reserve for this upcoming year.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to make sure I understand what, I know Brad asked you about the fund balance transfer. So just to, in my mind, how all of this worked last year to make everything balance, we took, the fund balance was money basically that we took and added to our budget.
Correct.
And the capital investment reserve is money that we kept and didn't contribute to another place, right? So that's how we came up with the $5 million that we needed.
Trustee Zimmerman, that's correct, yes.
And now we're just putting it back the way it was before. We're not returning any money, but we're just going back to the processes we had originally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So this slide shows you the capital investment reserve that we've had over for the last 5 years. The capital investment reserve was established as a board designated fund. So during the time that we've had this reserve, we have been able to construct the Parker Technical Education Center, purchase property, and build an addition to Meyer Health Science without borrowing any money. With the reinstatement of the reserve contribution for FY26, we will have approximately $6.6 million available for future strategic projects.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Is there anything planned on the horizon for those kind of funds?
That's a trick question, because it takes the board to approve it, but yeah, so there are probably initially some property purchases that we need to take care of that I'd rather not get into details on, but that's really the most prominent near-term use of the funds.
Any more questions, comments?
Yeah, I do have one question. First of all, Sarah, thank you for taking the time to visit with me and review the budget. You did a great job.
Thank you.
My only question is, we had talked about, I believe it was the liability insurance and the possibility of the opportunity to go back to the previous insurer. Do we have an update on that?
So I can't remember what I last told the board, but I have reached out to the prior provider, and their board has given permission for the company to give us a quote. And so we have been working with them to provide, if you've ever had to seek commercial property and liability insurance, you know how much work there is in providing all kinds of information to them. So we've been providing them information. We have been told that they are working on a quote, and I get an email probably every week asking me for additional information or clarification on something. Their plan is to take that to their board, to take a quote to their board at their board's July meeting for them to, and the hope is that the board will approve that quote, and then they will be able to deliver that quote to us. And then the coverage would begin on October 1st of this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? Well, we've all been briefed on this, and if everybody's within their comfort level, the chair would entertain a motion.
Are you done presenting?
I have more, but.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
Wondering.
I was under the impression you were done.
It's quite all right. It's not a lot, I promise. I won't keep.
No, that's fine. You take your time.
So the other piece of this is we had to create some expense reductions in order to get closer to a balanced budget. So as has been discussed multiple times, both from Sean, Noel, and the athletics director, and we've had these conversations across campus, we have reduced the Cardinal Grant budget, so the scholarship budget for athletes. We have reduced that, and instead of giving a full ride for every athlete at the full rate for out-of-state tuition and the residence hall, those numbers have been reduced, giving the coaches a pool of money to work with to recruit athletes for their teams. We have some vacant positions that have been vacant for a few years. We just took the funding away from them and determined that if we needed to add those positions back in, we would need to identify funding in order to do that, new funding to do that. We also were able to take a deeper dive at I will confess, our benefit budget has been neglected over the last few years, and I took some time based on our financial statements. Things didn't look right to me, so I did a deep dive into our benefits budget, and I was able to identify some significant savings from that budget to help us get in better shape. We reduced the legal fee budget by $125,000. That is based on the actual expenses that we've incurred with the new legal firm. And then we had some other miscellaneous reductions of about $200,000. So we have $1.9 million of new revenue, $6.6 million of new expenses, and we got rid of $3.4 million worth of expenses. So now we're still in the hole. Last year we were in the hole 5.2 million. This year we're only in the hole 1.2 million. So based on my conversations with the trustees during our one-on-one conversations, we would recommend using fund balance to once more for this year to bridge that gap. And we will continue to work to identify additional savings that will allow us to not have to budget for fund balance next year. On the subject of fund balance, the GFOA, I always say it wrong, GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends that fund balance be as a percentage of operating revenues no less than 5 to 15%. In 2024, our total fund balance was $28 million in the general fund. 13 of that was designated in the capital investment reserve, and 14.6 was undesignated. So if you look at, I prefer to look at the undesignated number because the designated number is going to change as soon as we start building things or buying things. But we're at 27%. So that's more than 15%, and even with 1.2 million of fund balance this year, we'll still be well within the recommended levels for fund balance. Another way that fund balance is looked at is no less than 1 or 2 months of general fund operating expenditures. So how long could you survive on your fund balance? And again, if you look at the undesignated fund balance, we ended 2024 at 3.3. Definitely within the recommended range, and I continue to work, though, not to rely on fund balance, but we're still within the recommended range. So our final recommendation is, in conclusion, we have two requests. The first is to consider the in-depth trustee budget preview meetings as a first reading. The second is to approve the FY 2026 proposal as presented, including the tuition increase, course fees, which were in your packet, but we didn't go into in details, the change in employee compensation, the funding of the capital investment reserve, and the use of fund balance to create a balanced budget.
I have a couple of comments before.
Yes, go ahead.
So first of all, and Sarah did this, met with the student government and went through the 5% or whatever, the 3.9% tuition increase, and they absolutely understood where we were with that and had no issues with the fund increase, tuition increase. And the second thing is, as if you recall, when we did the presentation on the athletic department, the first year we cut back 1.3 million, the second year is a 1.2 million, and that's already been planned. So we have, as we move forward, the 1.2 million for FY 26-27 is already calculated and in there. So by this time next year, when that kicks in, we'll be at the budget will be balanced without taking any further fund balance out, and with continued enrollment increases, I think we'll be in great shape. So this is just one more year, and then we'll be fine. Is that?
That's accurate. Yeah, I would just say thank you for Dr. Swain for reminding me about ASNIC leadership. I did meet with them. I walked them through the entire budget packet, which was really enlightening for all of us. We had a good conversation. They asked a lot of really good questions, and as Dr. Swain said, they're supportive of the increase, and they understand that it's going to support their success in the classrooms, to support the instructors and the staff at NIC to allow them to continue to be successful. So I will answer any additional questions that you have.
Anything? Yes.
Sarah, I just want to thank you for all the time and effort. I know that you've spent a lot of time with everybody, but you especially spent a lot of time with me, and you printed everything larger for me this year, which I really thank you again for. Tiny numbers are hard to read. And I have been concerned about the students and the impact for them for 3.9% fee increase or tuition increase. I think that with the way the economy is right now, it makes me more comfortable knowing that you met with them and that they understand it, having said that they're not the entire student body, but they are representative. So I can support the 3.9% increase based upon that and all of the other components of the budget that you presented. Thank you.
I too would like to say thank you so much for the time that you spent with me today. Sarah and I are numbers people, so we geeked out on numbers for an hour and 15 minutes, so I really appreciate that. And it was eye-opening, right, to have these conversations and to really be able to dive in and ask some pretty good questions. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for all the work you and your staff put into preparing the budget.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for your presentation. Very, very professional. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, back to where I think I was, okay? Would anybody care to make a motion?
I move that the board adopt the fiscal year 2026 budget as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay. First reading of vacation policy.
So we'll have, if Megan Snyder can come up and talk through where we are on these and then answer any questions if the board has them.
Yes. We are requesting to combine the annual vacation leave and turn it into vacation leave and personal leave. We came to the decision to combine these because it was repetitive information and it felt more fitting to put them into one. So it's essentially eliminating the personal leave and combining it into the vacation leave policy, vacation and personal leave policy. Do you have any questions?
Well, I guess I assume that the reaction to that was really positive from the staff and.
The information is generally the same, so I think it was more like, yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not for that one. Not for that one.
Anybody care to make a motion?
We can, it's first read, so if no one has any concerns, we can approve it on first read, or we can come back, if you'd like to see it again, come back as second read.
Well, if somebody wants to make a motion, we can take care of it right now. I guess we'll hear it a second time. Okay, thank you.
The next policy that we updated was the family and medical leave. This really is just to follow the federal guidelines. It would supersede any previous ones, and we did eliminate the procedure with it, which you wouldn't see, but we did have Senate eliminate it. So it's just a few changes to the family and medical leave to mimic the law.
Any questions, comments?
It makes sense that we would do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, you can approve it on first read, or we can bring it back as second.
I guess we'll bring it back a second time.
I
Okay.
will see you in June. Thanks.
Okay, board policy subcommittee report.
Well, fellow trustees, we've met twice as a subcommittee with President Swain and Trustee Havercroft, myself, W.D. Thomas and Kristen Howard. We've reviewed on the normal cycle, which we developed as a new policy in 2023 to review the board policies on a series of 3 years rotating. So there would be Schedule A, Schedule B, Schedule C. And we've just been reviewing Schedule A, which would be policies 2.0101, 2.0102, 2.0103, and 2.0105. In addition to those, we have also reviewed and revised 2.01.14. We have made some minor adjustments to some and a few more revisions to some others. We're going to meet again in the first week of June and finish up those revisions and bring back to the board for consideration at the June meeting. I don't think I have anything else to share unless Mary has something she'd like to offer.
I don't have a whole lot. I've only been on the committee for 2 meetings, but it's been selfishly, it's been very helpful to me to get to see the policies, but I think we've done some work much like you did where we've made things just easier to read and make sense and make sure that they're clear, so.
Yes, it does take, I think, a few times to look at it, collaborate as a group, and then let it settle for a little bit and then come back and review it again before we take something so important to the board for your consideration or our consideration. And yeah, I think we're pretty proud of the work that we've done so far, and we look forward to bringing it back to you in June. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustees Zimmerman and Havercroft. Appreciate your work on this, believe me.
And before you, just to note that Trustee Zimmerman is not just representing us on our policies, but also at the national level.
She is.
Policy. So I think we've made some really good progress there, and having been invited to participate at the national level is really cool.
We're lucky to have her.
Yes, we are. Okay, any trustee remarks for the good of the order? That concludes our business tonight. Good evening.